All right, we're live. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Burnin Rubber, the socially distanced edition. This edition will be going out over YouTube, Anchor, and Spotify in the coming days. Today is Friday, May the 8th, 2020. My name is Sterling Siemens, and I'm joined by my regular co-hosts, Hal Estep and Justin Palmer. Fellas, we're getting down to the end of the semester, but how are you all doing tonight?
A little bit stressed, but getting excited because we're getting even closer to racing coming back.
Absolutely.
You know it's coming. You know the anticipation and the buildup is coming, and it's kind of like it's an unexpected gift. You're either gonna get something really good, and it's just there's so much buildup leading up to this, and just getting cars back. We'll get a couple of them tonight at the World of Outlaws race, but you can feel the anticipation and starting to build up as we get closer to Darlington.
Absolutely. It's gonna be a welcome sign to see your actual cars on the track, and we will talk about that later in the show. But to begin, I do want to discuss what happened in the weekend in review. First, it was the most recent NASCAR iRacing event at, I believe it was Dover, I want to say,
Correct.
and William Byron. What more can you say? William Byron is the master of iRacing at this point. He basically ran away with it, won the event. Not a lot of controversy there. Justin, is there any input to really talk about with the iRacing event in Dover?
Clint Boyer was not part of the race, so there went half the wrecks that we were expecting to get. But not really for this race. Dover was kind of your average race and a lot of green flag runs. And it's a couple of guys as we haven't seen in a while. Oh, God, I love the Furniture Row paint scheme coming back for Regan Smith. But, nothing really much. Edge Hill had no chance on the older tires against Byron towards the end of that race.
Yeah, Hal, anything to add about the Dover event?
William Byron may be the greatest iRacing driver of this generation in terms of NASCAR, so we should just bow down to the king.
All hail William Byron. Byron led over half the race, 79 of the 150 laps. He beat Christopher Bell, Timmy Hill in third, followed by Eric Jones and Michael McDowell rounding out the top five. There were quite a few crashes, but again, we've gotten accustomed to it at this point, how William Byron has just Byron, they've run 6-7 races in the iRacing Pro Invitational, and William Byron's won 3 of them at least.
But here's the deal. Here's the kicker, or that you guys may not be knowing. Timmy Hill, in the hypothetical scenario, is leading the point standings.
Oh, gosh.
Timmy Hill, this is – anybody getting 2003 vibes? Timmy Hill has only won 1 race. Byron's won 3. And Hill is still leading the point standings.
That's it. I got to check out his statistics on iRacing. Let's see. He's finished in the top 5 in every race except 1 of the iRacing events. Finished 3rd at Homestead, obviously won at Texas, but then he finished 3rd at Bristol, 2nd at Richmond, finished 11th at Talladega, and then he finished 3rd here at Dover. So, it shows he's been consistent, whereas William Byron, he finished 34th at Homestead, and that was due to a crash. And then he's finished in the top 10 every other race. So, there's that interesting bit. But, I'm kind of running out of things to talk about, honestly, with iRacing and NASCAR, just because real racing is going to come back, thank God. But it's been a fun experiment, I'd say, and we'll touch up on iRacing one more time at the end of the show, because there is a big event that I think is the perfect send-off, and we will discuss that. But that will be for another time, because right now I want to get into the other iRacing event that happened. It was the finale for the IndyCar iRacing Challenge at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a virtual race at the Brickyard. And this one was crazy. It some will call it a wild finish, just an excellent, entertaining event. Others could call it a cluster. And I'll just say it was just pure insanity from what I saw of it. Scott McLaughlin ended up winning after 2 crashes happened in front of him in the last 2 corners. Well, actually, one of them was in the last corner. The other was coming to the finish line. But if I remember correctly, I think it was Ericsson and O'Ward, who were Marcus Ericsson and Pagenaud O'Ward, who were battling each other for the win going into turn 4. And then they took each other out. So that left Oliver Askew and Santino Ferrucci side by side going to the line. And then Ferrucci turns down into Askew, and they wreck like 100 yards from the line. Askew and Ferrucci go flying in the air. Scott McLaughlin gets around both of them and wins the race. Oh, and that's not even the biggest dramatic point. We're going to dive into that, take a pretty deep dive. But Hal Leestep, just watching this event, it was just crazy. I mean, what a way to end the iRacing Challenge for IndyCar.
I think that finish was the definition of pure insanity, because you got this top 4, and you're thinking, who's going to come out of this last corner and win the race? It's going to be one of these 4. It has to be. And then all of them just decide, hey, you know what? I'm just going to wreck. Everyone's just going to wreck right here. It was just pure insanity. I think Santino Ferrucci called his move NASCAR move because he uses it in NASCAR races on iRacing. As it turns out, it didn't translate well. It definitely did not translate well at all. Scott McLaughlin must have been really surprised, just going around going, all right, nice top 5 fit. All right, top 3 fit. All right, I won the race. Okay, cool. That was crazy.
Just crazy. Justin.
Well, I think like every single race car driver should know or is going to find out that iRacing and actual auto sports are not the same thing. Anything from the NASCAR side of video games gets drivers in trouble when they try to do it in real life. You can ask Carl Edwards at Kansas in 2008 and how that worked out for him. But yeah, I mean, first off, we all knew Scott was going to get himself one eventually. Everybody kind of knew it was only going to be a matter of time. It took him to the last race to do it, but he finally got his win. It took basically the 1979 and 1976 Daytona 500 finishes combined to do it, but it happened. And 2 drivers took each other out in turn 4, and one guy took out the other, and on the front straightaway. Yeah, that's all I can really say without diving into it deeper about the ladder incident.
Yeah. Just looking at the statistics from the iRacing challenge, this was actually McLaughlin's 2nd win of the challenge. He won at Barber Motorsports Park
That's right.
a few weeks ago. But still, a chaotic race, just an insane way to close out the iRacing, the IndyCar iRacing Challenge. And as for the 2 incidents that happened, well, the Ericsson and O'Ward incident, that happened in the last corner. None were too happy with each other, but let's just push that aside, because that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Santucci versus Oliver Askew, and more prominently, another incident that happened between Lando Norris, the F1 driver from McLaren, and Simon Pagenaud, the reigning Indianapolis 500 champion for IndyCar, because that put a pretty big divide in the fan base of motorsports between F1 and IndyCar. It just ostracized them even further. Or I don't know if ostracized is the right word, but it divided them even further. Actually, let's start with the Norris and Pagenaud incident because that happened earlier. Pagenaud was racing for the lead with another car, and then Lando Norris tries to make it 3 wide going into turn 2. This is pretty late in the event, and they're going for the lead at this point with inside 15 laps to go at the very least. Norris dives it in, makes it 3 wide. Pagenaud gets put in the wall, he gets spun around, has to come down, does a reset. Well, then, as he gets back out on the track, as he's going to be lapped by Norris, it's alleged, and Pagenaud's video stream that he made doesn't help his case, that he slowed down in turn 4, and basically Lando Norris ran in the back of him, and they both wrecked again. So Lando Norris was very, very critical of Pagenaud after the event, saying that it was poor sportsmanship, and that Norris was being criticized by Pagenaud for the move that he had made to make it 3 wide a few laps earlier. And Norris said that if it was the Indy 500, he would do the same thing. So, with that said, is there a side to pick on this debate of whose fault it was? And what does this give a look? I don't know. What look does this provide for IndyCar or F1 or the difference between? I'll start with Justin Palmer on this subject.
It's a little bit interesting that we're talking about this for IndyCar and F1 because when you normally think of drivers going out there and taking each other out and racing incidents, having repercussions later on in the event or in different events, that's normally a NASCAR thing. IndyCar is kind of a different situation because as when the NASCAR driver wrecks, they can usually go back out onto the racetrack and like they can retaliate. Like, they're obviously not at full strength, but they can retaliate. IndyCar F1, you get wrecked, your day is done. Now, obviously, with iRacing, the resets, it's definitely a help drivers with that, but it's not. I don't know how I honestly feel about it because it's like the NASCAR part of me is going back to how I felt about the Matt Kenseth incident earlier, like my initial reactions. Heck yeah. Yeah, he wrecked that guy, put him in the wall. Oh. But at the same time, and this is just not I don't think this is a good look for either of the two right now. Oh, you want to stay out of the controversial stuff as much as possible in these events. And even though IndyCar has obviously shown that it has not had the same ratings effect as the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series, I think it's like 10-1 in terms of viewership. If it's kind of stunning, honestly, but it's still is not good for the relationship between IndyCar drivers and F1 drivers.
Ali Step, your take on the Norris v. Pagenaud situation.
Well, I saw that Lando Norris also pointed out that on the first incident, there was some netcode/lag problems, which may have led to the incident, which when I do something in a game that angers some people and it wasn't on purpose, I also say it's lag. So I'm not sure if he's being entirely truthful with that because I lie when I say that. But it is interesting that Pagenaud decided that he was going to take him out after that because this isn't in the norm for a usual IndyCar F1 mindset during a race. You know, you don't usually go out there to get some revenge because it's that dangerous. You shouldn't do it. Typically, you just shouldn't do it in general. But the way he did it did remind me of Matt Kenseth's incident in a little bit of a different light of, you know what, I have a different strategy. I'm not going to junk him. I'm just going to slow down and, yep, there we go. So in terms of taking a side, I mean, Lando Norris really didn't do much. He took a risky move, and it was a racing maneuver, which was countered by an entirely non-racing move later on. So I don't see how anyone could be on Pagenaud's side. And it kind of takes me back to last week. We were talking about how the outsiders were basically doing so well in these IndyCar iRaces. So all I could think was, did that play a role in why Pagenaud was this aggressive towards Norris of, I'm not going to let this F1 guy go win this race. So when I get back out on the track, I'm going to wreck him. If it was somebody else, like another fellow IndyCar driver, I don't think he makes that move. So I think that adds a different layer to it. So if I was had to pick a side, I'd say it's Lando Norris' side because he really didn't do much wrong.
I will say this much. What Norris did on Pagenaud, yes, it's risky, but at the same time, it's iRacing. You know, it's virtual. It's not real life. So, I mean, it doesn't reflect well on Pagenaud that he slowed up to take out Lando Norris, which I feel like is the intent that Pagenaud had. And obviously, it's going to be different if it's a real life event. I would hope that Pagenaud doesn't have that mindset in a real life situation. Like if he's a lap down at Indianapolis and someone took him out, I would dearly hope that he doesn't actually do that during the Indianapolis 500 in real life, you know, physically behind the wheel of a race car. But it still doesn't reflect very well that he basically kind of hinted, I don't want this F1 outsider to win this thing. That being said, I think the way Lando Norris handled this situation could have been handled better, because just from what I've been seeing out of this incident in the aftermath, Lando Norris called Pagenaud a loser, said that Pagenaud was salty. It's just, I mean, I would much rather take the high ground on this. And I understand that Norris is frustrated after that event, but at the same time, I can't stress this enough, it's iRacing. It's not real. It's a simulation. And I'm going to try not to say it's a video game because I know a lot of people are going to get triggered about that if I say that. But putting that aside, it's not real. It's not the physical real being of an actual race. iRacing, it gets close to the real thing, but it's still not the real thing. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to beat the real thing, the actual genuine racing product out there on the track. So to be this upset over an iRacing event, I just no. No. I don't understand it. I feel like Norris is taking this too seriously. Well, I mean, I probably shouldn't say that, but I feel like the aftermath of this incident, Lando Norris is not handling very well. And I understand getting respect from the drivers. I mean, you go out and win at Circuit of the Americas in an IndyCar, I mean, hey, respect to you. But, I mean, to basically take this feud, this minor little thing that happened during an iRacing event, and take it all the way to Twitter and drag it out over the course of several days, that's what I have a problem with. So, obviously, Pagenaud, what he did, it's poor sportsmanship, and I don't like what Pagenaud did. But with Lando Norris dragging this out over the course of several days on Twitter, of all places, I mean, come on. That's like trying to settle a petty lunch money feud over at the kindergarten playground. It's not the place to handle it. It's childish what's going on. And the fact that what I heard Marshall Pruitt, one of the most respected journalists at Racer.com, he put out on Twitter from a source that he had heard from that a driver is actually getting death threats from that incident. You see, when stuff like this happens, if a driver gets death threats, to race fans out there, this is why we cannot have nice things. This is my biggest concern is that something in real life is going to happen because of an incident that stemmed from a non-real virtual racing event. That's my biggest concern. And I'm almost certain that it's going to happen at some point, and I'm going to hate it when it happens.
Yeah, that part really ticked me off of how this is this is part of the negative side of the iRacing thing is because every single action the driver does is public, and that, whether that is justified or not, that has caused a lot of controversy for the sports of IndyCar, F1, and NASCAR.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's taking Pagenaud's side. And the first incident is a racing incident. Let's call it what it is. It's a racing incident. You're not going to have, it's 15 laps to go at Indianapolis. I don't care or if you're in NASCAR, go-karts, or it's IndyCar, F1, and if they ever decide to come back there, or even an air race at that racetrack, you are going for the win at that point at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It doesn't matter how small the event is, it's Indianapolis. Yes. So that is a racing incident. But it's definitely, and again, I said it before, it's new ground for IndyCar and F1. Because IndyCar and F1 and drivers take each other out and they can't retaliate. They literally cannot retaliate until cooler heads can, and normally cooler heads prevail after a week away from the racetrack. But with iRacing and quarantine and everything that's going on, these guys have nothing to do but go on Twitter and tweet out 280 characters.
Yeah.
It's always just mind-boggling to me how those 280 characters just tell you who a person truly is and can even damage someone's career.
Yeah,
again, I'm not saying what Pagenaud did was right. And when I say it reminds me of the Matt Kenseth incident and the vibes of heck yeah, he got him. The reason why and again, I'm comparing apples to oranges because Matt Kenseth, that was coming. That was building up for 3 weeks of Joey Logano shrugging off the incident at Kansas and then bumping into him at Talladega, and then Brad Keselowski wrecking Matt Kenseth. Kenseth had nothing to lose at that point. Joey Logano did. And here, it's an iRacing event. Again, it's a simulation. And I know you want to please the sponsors. I know you want to please your fans. I know you want to please yourself for going out and winning an Indy. I get that. But this should not have the same sort of rage that a normal race would have. And again, this is different. We are all learning a moral compass. Bubba Wallace has told us, but each controversy has told us the moral code, basically, that is being constructed around iRacing, which probably should have been written before. It probably should have been established beforehand, and some basic guidelines aims for teams to follow. But it's being established right in front of our eyes of what you can and cannot do during these events.
Yeah, we've seen it on display. Drivers facing real-life consequences for stuff that happens on iRacing. Bubba Wallace lost Blue Emu. Kyle Larson has nearly single-handedly killed his NASCAR career by dropping a racial epithet. Now there's Twitter beef going on between Lando Norris and Simon Pagenaud. I mean, iRacing, it's great entertainment, but it can also bring out the worst in drivers. Hallie, Steph, anything to add before we move on to another incident that happened?
Well, we hesitate to call it a video game for a good reason. It is a simulator, but for all intents and purposes for these guys, it is kind of a video game for them. They think of it as just fun. And you're having fun in first place, and a guy straight up just slows down in front of you, you slam into him, you stop having fun. You get a little bit angry. I understand it. It's the exact mindset of a video game player. The problem is these guys are on a much grander scale where they have Twitter followers, they have a ton of them, and they can broadcast their thoughts out about what just happened that a lot of their fans just watch. And unfortunately that influences the fans, and I think it's Lando Norris could have handled this so much better, because it is you gotta take some time to cool down after these. The best thing you can do in general when you're upset is just take some time to cool down and think, and then you can talk about it, because then you have a level head and you aren't going to make your supporters upset because you're upset. Because I think if Lando Norris had given a more level-headed response, maybe even joked around about what happened, his fans would not have, no one would have been that upset over this incident. But you put fuel on the fire when you give your emotional response after it happens. So it's an unfortunate side effect of basically what happens when just about anyone plays a game. The fun was taken out for somebody, and he broadcast that out to everybody.
Yeah, I like how you brought up the perspective of a driver, because for iRacing, there's two different ways to approach it. Because if you're a real life driver, if you are a NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, NHRA, World of Outlaws, whatever series you drive, if you're a regular competitor in there, like on a full-time basis, they're going to treat this like a game, because it's not the real thing. And all the danger, danger is basically non-existent on iRacing, because they're in the comfort of their own home, unless their simulator gets struck by lightning and they get bitten by sharks at the same time. Then it's not danger. At that point, it becomes dangerous. But
I mean, someone's simulator did flip over during a race. I forgot who.
Oh yeah, there was that one time. That one, I think it was at Monza. But
Yeah,
that was hilarious to see. But in the end, they were fine.
yeah.
Unless your simulator is that lifelike, then iRacing is going to be virtually harmless. Now, if you're an up-and-comer who's trying to make it into the ranks, and iRacing is a great tool to use to get up there. I mean, there's the iRacing Pro, the Coca-Cola iRacing Pro Series for a reason in NASCAR. It's for those up-and-coming guys who want to break into the sport and drive in reality. They want to get behind the wheel of a real NASCAR Camping World truck, not Camping World, Gander RV and outdoors truck. They want to get behind the wheel of one of those. They want to get behind the wheel of an Xfinity car. They want to get behind the wheel of a Cup car. They want that real experience. They want to be the next William Byron and get behind the wheel of the real thing and be successful. That's what they want to do. So they approach iRacing much differently than, say, Jimmy Johnson or Kyle Busch, or especially Clint Boyer. You know, they'll get behind the wheel and take it seriously. Whereas guys like Clint Boyer, they'll see the iRacing thing and be like, fun little thing, let's play. Just, you know, the mentality, the way they treat iRacing, simulation racing, is much different depending on where you are on a career level for racing. Real quick, I do want to touch up on the Santucci versus Oliver Askew incident. Santino Ferrucci, he basically wrecked Oliver Askew coming to the line. I don't think there's much of a debate there. And taking, he does the same thing on NASCAR. Well, on iRacing, NASCAR events. Here's the thing, though. NASCAR stock cars have full-bodied fenders where you can afford to do that. In IndyCar, if you do that, you're going to hook wheels and go straight in the wall. I mean, I don't know if Hal or Justin, Hal, I don't know if you have anything to add on to that, but that's basically
Um,
what happened.
yeah, he said himself he would never try that in a real race, and I think we all knew that. But yeah, Ferrucci didn't double down on what he did. He was just kind of like, yeah, it wasn't a good move on my part.
Yeah,
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
pretty much. That's pretty much it. So now that we've gotten our rants on those two incidents out of the way, or at least my rant, I'll get off my soapbox and let's talk about something positive for once. In these trying times, there is a glimpse of hope, a little glimpse of optimism. And for some reason, my screen isn't showing my fingers, but there's just that little bit of optimism in the future because, gentlemen, it is official. NASCAR racing is back. It is coming back May 17th at the Darlington Raceway. Now, as we have a look here, NASCAR has officially announced that they are going to return to Darlington for a 400-mile event on May 17th. It'll be overall a 293-lap race. It'll be the first 400-mile event held at Darlington since 2004. Now, because they're holding an event at Darlington, there were some scheduling changes that had to be made, some realignments in the middle of the season. NASCAR announced that 3 tracks are going to be losing race dates because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. They are Chicagoland Speedway, which loses its Cup Series, well, it loses its NASCAR weekend, basically. Sonoma Raceway out in California, and Richmond Raceway will lose its spring race date. So with those schedule changes, I'll start with Justin because Justin, you're from Chicago, you live in the area, and you've gone to several races at Chicagoland Speedway. From a fan's perspective, what's it like knowing that NASCAR is not going to be there this season?
Just from a racing fan's perspective, it's going to sting, and because Chicagoland has been the best mile-and-a-half track for the past 2 years. I mean, you had the battle between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch in 2018, and then you had Alex Bowman versus Kyle Larson in 2019 with Brian Blaney stuck in the mix. But it makes sense. You cannot risk going to Chicagoland Speedway right now. The situation in Cook, I know it's in Joliet. It's a different ball game. However, Cook County, Cook County is not Joliet. However, what Cook County is probably one of the biggest epicenters of the pandemic right now. Well, obviously, New York is bigger in that regard, but there's no way you can have a race at Chicagoland Speedway. And there's definitely been some grumblings here. They're definitely further towards south of about how they're getting lumped in with Chicago, how they're getting lumped in with Lake County. Every region that is not at right now in the Chicagoland area. And people in Joliet have said, we are not Chicago. Yet they are very close to Chicago. Geographically. So it's that bout. So it definitely stings that we're going to be losing Chicagoland Speedway. However, I have no concerns about this track losing a date going forward in terms of 2021 scheduling. And I think this is one of the few tracks that has the opportunity to maybe even get a doubleheader, or just because of how big of a region Chicagoland Speedway has been and how popular it has been with the fan base. I'm not saying that's going to be 2021 or 2022. It's probably going to be further down the road when these doubleheaders become more common. But it's going to sting for Chicagoland Speedway. I mean, obviously, Sonoma, that race was pretty much a foregone conclusion that race was not going to be on the table. And Richmond will have its spring day. I mean, it's fall date, so I wouldn't be too concerned if I'm in Richmond. But it's mostly going to sting for the people of Sonoma, California, that they're not going to have that race.
Yeah, I mean, Chicagoland Speedway, they were forced to reduce their staff quite a bit by a sizable amount because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. As for Sonoma, it's aside from Watkins Glen and the Roval, it's the only other road course that's out there on the Cup Series schedule. So to go further in detail, Chicagoland's race weekend, which was set for June 21st, the weekend of June 21st, has been reassigned to Darlington on May 17th. Chicagoland's Xfinity race will now be held May 19th at Darlington. Their truck event for Chicagoland and their ARCA event that was supposed to be held on June 18th at Chicago. Officials have indicated that those races will be reassigned at a later date. For Richmond Raceway, their Springtime Cup Series event on the schedule, which was originally listed for April 19th, has been moved to Darlington on May 20th. The truck race supposed to be held in Richmond remains postponed, with officials saying details could come later on. As of now, the Virginia Track's September 11th and 12th race weekend remains on the schedule. So there's a chance that the Cup Series could still come to Richmond. It's just going to be later on in the season at their second race date on the 2020
And that's
calendar.
a playoff race this season, so
That's true. Yep.
It's not that big of a sacrifice for Richmond Raceway.
As for Sonoma, their race weekend that was set for June 14th has been moved to Charlotte on May the 27th. Officials for the road course said in a release that they had worked with NASCAR to try to find an alternate date on the schedule, but a suitable replacement could not be reached, quote, given the ongoing uncertainty around large events in California, unquote. So basically with all these calendar changes, I mean, we knew ahead of time that there were going to be 3 tracks that were losing dates. Sonoma, I think it was a foregone conclusion from all of us that it was going to be at least one of the tracks affected, considering how big the pandemic is in California and how it's basically an epicenter out there. For Chicago, I mean, I mean, Justin, you pointed out the numbers. It's big out in Chicago. And for Richmond, I mean, it's a sacrifice losing a race, but they still have a race in the end. I'll go to Hal for asking what your thoughts are on the schedule changes for the Cup Series, at least.
Well, I gotta say, we all saw it coming, but it kind of a little bit heartburn about Sonoma in particular because you don't have many road courses on the schedule as it is, and losing one's a hard pill to swallow. But we all knew it was coming. With Richmond, it's good they have another race for them. It's always they were one of the few tracks that could say we can afford to lose this one and still have one later on. Chicagoland, we were discussing it. We thought it might be Kansas that lose the race. We knew it was going to be a 1.5 mile track, but it was between Chicagoland and Kansas where we were going, which one would it be? And I'd say that makes more sense as Chicagoland. Even though it's their only race, you kind of knew with the uncertainty in that area that was the more likely scenario. Kansas is, I'd say, in a better place as it is right now than the Chicagoland, Juliet area. Now, we are losing a pretty good track there, and the replacement's already being announced as the early races make sense. I kind of wish they could have added in another road course if they could have, like another date at the Roval. But as it stands right now, I think they've done what they could to get it started when they've announced. So it's a hard pill to swallow in general, losing those races. But we're going to get racing back, and this is the sacrifice that needed to be made.
Yeah. As for the Roval event that a lot of people wanted to see a Roval happen, considering how Sonoma's been taken off the schedule now. From what I've been told, the reason why they are not going to do a Roval this early on in the season is because right now all the teams have prepared are cars and packages for intermediate tracks. Right now, they don't have any cars prepared for road course events just yet. So they're going to start with Darlington and Charlotte, and from what I've been able to tell, it looks like they're just going to go on a monthly basis on assessing where can we go, how far out can we go, what states will allow us to race. And once we figure that out, then we can start planning what to do from there. And we'll try to get as many races as we can into the schedule. So they're starting local. Obviously, North Carolina, they're already there. They don't have they don't have to travel out a far distance. They can stay in North Carolina and race there. And then obviously they'll be racing in South Carolina with Darlington on May 17th to start their realigned schedule. And where they go from there, I think it just depends on when states reopen, depends on local governments, what they allow, what they don't, and guidelines that are going to be happening. Speaking of guidelines, and I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but NASCAR announced that they are going to penalize drivers and crew members who do not follow social distancing guidelines and other regulations around the garage area. If drivers are not practicing social distancing properly, or if they're not wearing a mask, they will be fined. They are subject to be fined. I think if I can, I'm going to pull this up real quick. I know in the Cup Series, it's the most heavily, it's definitely subject to the highest fine. And then it just goes down between the Cup, Xfinity, and the Truck Series. So, I'm going to, here's an article I find from Michelle Martinelli that I'll get up here real quick. Let's see, past that. The penalty for breaking the rules on COVID-19 guidelines. It will result in a fine between $10,000 and $50,000 for the Cup Series, between $5,000 and $25,000 for the Xfinity Series, and between $2,500 and $12,500 for the Truck Series. The latter two series will also be returning to racing at an adjusted schedule. So obviously there are fines that are going to be incurred for those who do not follow the proper guidelines. Hal, do you see these guidelines? Do you see the penalties for drivers and crew members who don't abide by the rules that have been put in the garage area? Do you see the fines getting heavier and heavier the longer, like if there's any repeat violations?
It's a tough fine to begin with, because this is an easy rule to follow. I think after the first fine, you'd get it through your head. I can't do that. And $50,000, that's going to add up, even if it doesn't go up in terms of an amount after the first penalty. We're talking $100K because you just messed up twice. And if that doesn't get through your head, then, they're just hopeless. It's as simple as that. Financially, this is going to take a toll immediately, because this is not a time where money can be wasted. And you'd be wasting a whole lot if you keep doing, especially for crew members. Drivers, I'd say they could afford it, but, they don't want to. They don't want to have to do that. So if they did do a repeat offender's incremental fine, that'd be an even better way to keep people from violating social distancing rules. And I think they should implement that, but as it is, just getting $50K the second time for anyone in the Cup Series, I think that's enough to keep them from doing that.
Absolutely. Justin?
I think this is the right move by NASCAR. I think clearly they got to set an example to say, hey, we're going back, but we're not trying to completely just break all the rules. You gotta have some sort of consequence if you decide to break this. And I think the 50K is acceptable as a fine and for the Cup guys. And I think for the Xfinity and trucks, it's a little high, but it's reasonable to assume. But NASCAR needs to make sure that this rule is enforced heavily. Need to make sure that these drivers are following it and there is zero tolerance for not following it.
Yeah, I feel like it should be pretty self-explanatory. You know, follow the rules. If you don't, if you're walking the wrong way in a garage area where it says arrows go this way, then yeah, I mean, you're probably, or if you're not wearing a mask, especially in this day and age, these uncertain times, then yeah, you're going to get fined. And if that doesn't get it through the head of a driver saying like, you've got to follow this, then I feel like the penalties are going to be harsher. And especially considering where the teams are financially right now, you do not want to get a fine. Because, I mean, if the decision were erring on more on the side of public safety, which I'm not saying NASCAR isn't keeping the public safety in mind, because they clearly are, because they're not allowing anyone to these races, no spectators whatsoever. Everyone has to wear a mask. It's NASCAR. They're acting on this and they're racing now. They're going back racing because if they don't, the teams are going to be in a much worse financial situation in terms of business and trying to keep these teams going. They have to do this. They have to get back to racing. And it's unfortunate because there is an inherent risk right now of going back racing. But when you take a step back and really analyze it in terms of the future of the sport and finances and trying to keep these teams afloat, especially the smaller teams that are trying to work paycheck to paycheck, this is the best decision to try to keep them afloat. And that is to go out and race and to try to make some money. Even if it means starting and parking, it's still money that is provided. It's money that goes to the teams. And that's basically the same way with IndyCar and Formula One too. I mean, Formula One, I don't even know when they're going to get started this season. If they get started this season, their slated schedule beginning is Austria in July. And that's if the pandemic has subsided and gone down around the world, which is debatable when that would happen at this point. But yeah, even Claire Williams from the Williams F1 team, she said that a lot of teams could be in trouble if there's no racing in F1 this year.
Again, we're talking about 4 teams that can possibly go away. And we have already known that Haas F1, they're about ready to pull out. They were ready to pull out before this all began. So, oh yeah. Again, I hate that we're put in this situation. I really do. You know, I hate the coronavirus as much as everybody else. And it's definitely been tough to decide whether or not NASCAR should go back racing, whether any of these series should go back racing. And again, like it or not, NASCAR's is the worst guinea pig to be going back and testing this out first in terms of sporting organizations. They are the worst guinea pig because they have 640 people that are drivers, crew chiefs, car members, etc. alone, not to mention TV and all the other people you need to run a race. They have a whole lot more than the 300 people that need to run a football game, the 200 people that need to run a hockey game, and the 100 people that need to be there to run a basketball game. They are the worst guinea pig to do it. However, they are the most vulnerable people in terms of financial situation. The NBA is coming back. Heck, no team is contracting. The MLB is coming back. Heck, no team other than maybe the Tampa Bay Rays, but they've already had their own issues, are contracting. No team in the NFL is contracting because of this pandemic. Like, the only people who are contracting are those who are financially vulnerable. And you already saw with the XFL.
Yep. It obviously teams are being put in some big financial stress because of the pandemic. And first of all, why you got to diss on the Rays, man? I'm actually trying to get a T-shirt and hat because I went to a Rays game and they're a great team to root for. It's just their fans don't care about them, but and their stadium.
Neither do the owners. Otherwise, you'd have a new stadium by now.
Might be.
And you wouldn't be threatening to move to Montreal. Do you want to go back to Olympic Stadium?
I mean, it'd be nice to see a team back in Montreal, but
it would. But Olympic Stadium.
All right. While we're getting off topic, there, fun baseball talk. We are fans of other sports. It's good for you all to know that, in case you didn't already. But I mean, I think the arrowhead behind me really says enough. So
we're transitioning into bringing back old stadiums, huh?
Let's see. Let's have a look at something else that happened. A couple things, actually. First is that Kyle Larson has gone through and completed racial sensitivity training. So, I mean, good for him, especially if he learns a thing or two and improves himself on this. I think that's a general consensus we can agree on. And another thing is that Kyle Larson is actually racing tonight in World of Outlaws. World of Outlaws is coming back to action at the Knoxville Raceway over in Iowa. Now, obviously there are no spectators allowed because of Iowa State guidelines, but the race is being broadcasted live on Dirt Vision, and the field in there includes drivers such as Brad Sweet, Donnie Schatz, Rico Abreu, and Casey Kane is in this race as well, including also David Gravel is in this event as well. So, you know, you got a big star-studded field in Knoxville tonight. I mean, Knoxville, Iowa, I should say, not Tennessee, not the volunteer state. No, Iowa, Knoxville, Iowa. Go Mizzou. Now,
our Iowa, racing Iowa, not racing Iowa, racing Knoxville. That's not what we should refer to.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's nice to, like, there's the first strike of racing's back. It's starting to come back. I mean, it's a good sign. Thank goodness. So there's, at least that's another optimistic sign to think about. Another thing I do want to bring up is that IndyCar has also set a scheduled time of when their season will begin. They will begin their season under the lights on June 6th at the Texas Motor Speedway. Oh, yeah. IndyCar starting the year at Texas. It's going to be great. I mean, Texas is one of the I don't know if it'd be considered a crown jewel event, but I mean, it's a pretty high popular, very prestigious event for IndyCar over at the Texas Motor Speedway. And the race is going to be broadcasted on NBC-SN. Oh,
are you kidding me?
Really?
You have the opportunity and you don't move it to the network NBC.
It's right there. It's staring you in the face. Why wouldn't you put it on the network?
Well, neither is NASCAR for a couple of the their actual events going on right now.
But isn't the first one on Fox, though?
Yeah,
the first one is on Fox.
Yeah, like that. This is the opener, not even on network. That's insane to me.
All the races that I understand during the weekdays, like any races on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are going to be held on a cable channel. Like they're going to be held on FS1, whereas the races on Sunday are likely going to be held on Fox. So at least there's that. But
gotta promote 911 Texas or something like that.
It's 911 Lone Star. I've actually seen a couple episodes of it, but
copy paste.
I mean, still though, it's right there. and they didn't put it on the network. They're not going to, it sounds like. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. But, hey, racing is going to be back. IndyCar is going to be back at Texas Motor Speedway, June 6th. We will be on the show to make predictions once that date comes around. So be in store for that. Now we're going to we're getting into the late stages of this. Actually, before we do, I'm glad I remembered this. Hal Eastep, how's the money team doing? We need to know, has there been any news on them lately? I know it's pandemic. I know not much has happened. Please entertain us with your wisdom on the money team.
Well, I'm looking at my personal text with Floyd Mayweather that he is yet to return. And with that, I believe that means he doesn't have any news for me. I don't know. He's busy probably trying to set up some boxing match with UFC fighters again. He'll get to me when he gets, I don't have any news.
Same thing every week.
Yeah. Well, there was one. There was that one time where they registered the 50. They registered it, and that's about it. So this has been your money team update. Again, no news this week. Sorry about that. Kind of. Let's move on to the next topic. NASCAR iRacing. The experiment will come to a conclusion, and I believe it's going to be a Saturday event, if I'm correct on that. The NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Finale. Now, I know you guys know where this track is going to be held, or where this race is going to be held, and I got to admit, this is the one where I'm more excited than any of the others on, because this race is going to be held at a track that last hosted an actual NASCAR event. The last time it held an event was 1996. Jeff Gordon won the 400-lap event at this facility. It's a track that is just adored by fans of NASCAR in the mid-90s and beyond. Well, and before, I should say. But it's going to be fun to watch. I think the last race that was held here in general was either 2010 or 2011. But guys, NASCAR, in a sense, virtually, is going to be racing at North Wilkesboro Speedway. It is happening. North Wilkesboro, in some way, shape, form, capacity, is going to be hosting another race. And I got to be honest, I really want to see this because, I mean, it's been such a long time. And North Wilkesboro was a really popular track right before it got, even in the years before, it was a really popular track that the drivers really enjoyed racing on up to its cancellation and its removal from the schedule after the 1996 season, before NASCAR went on to chase bigger markets out in California and Texas. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. And this really goes to show Dale Jr. and his efforts, because I don't think we can state enough how much it actually means when he was there with an iRacing simulator vehicle out there driving around North Wilkesboro and getting a feel for the track and to drive around it, to clear out all the shrubs. It's a testament. Gosh, the voice is going away now. Give me a second, excuse me. But it's a testament to all the work that Junior and iRacing have been putting into that track to get a simulation for it. And it will probably be still a pretty long time if NASCAR ever goes back there in reality, because they're going to have to reconstruct the heck out of that place and spend up in the millions of dollars. But it's going to be fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to see how it looks. Hal Eastep, can you believe it?
No, Not really, but you know what? It's one of those things you didn't think would happen. When I had heard that they've been had the iRacing crew up there, I didn't think that they would have it done so quick that they could fit it in before the real season was restarted. So this is amazing. I can't wait to see it on Saturday.
Yeah, Justin.
This is what I wanted to talk about. Oh, like before the Kyle Larson incident, the Landon Castle race at Mazda Speedway. Hey, and how unique that was. It's because it's not just as going to Dover and following the schedule. It's about going to these different tracks that you could put a NASCAR car on and actually have fun with it, unlike trying to make it like the real thing. And it's a simulation for a reason. You could experiment with different tracks. And North Wilkesboro, none of us were even born when the last time that track hosted a NASCAR Cup event. None of us. And we are still excited to see that track finally get to iRacing. I'm kind of hoping that we were going to see it eventually. I thought we were going to see it around June or July, but to have it ready in early May, when we are right about to go racing at what has been formerly been the throwback racetrack in the Lady in Black, North Wilkesboro finally getting saved in some regard.
Yeah.
And just to even have it documented on iRacing after how much damage that track has had over the past couple of years. And I got to give credit where credit is due to all the workers who have worked at North Wilkesboro to preserve this track, because there's a lot of tracks out there that have not been or haven't had the same fate, have kind of been and left to nature to take its course.
Right.
There's even with North Wilkesboro that the damage is pretty significant into that racetrack, but to have that track back in some capacity, it's going to be so much fun. And I really hope, and this is my hope up right here, I really hope this is the best race NASCAR has in the iRacing series. I really do.
Yes.
I know the entry list is a lot smaller this week, but I hope this race does well enough for NASCAR to maybe take a second glance at that old racetrack and maybe start investing a little bit of money into it like they are doing with Rockingham right now.
It would be. It really would be.
Bringing back at the 0.625 mile racetrack. Who doesn't love short tracks?
I feel like, I don't know. There's probably someone out there who will say, I don't really care for short tracks. I'm like, get out. Get out. Doors actually behind me. Get out. Anyway, but as for North Wilkesboro, you mentioned some tracks that haven't been as well preserved. Concerning North Wilkesboro, and I gave some props to Dale Jr., but I also want to give some props to the group that is behind this. I mean, there's a Twitter account out there called Save the Speedway that is specifically dedicated to the preservation and maintaining of North Wilkesboro Speedway. It's out there on Twitter, and they've been providing some great updates. Then they're very transparent with fans who have questions about the state of the track, about everything that's going on. It's a great gateway and an outlet to see what exactly is going on with the track in its current state. Because I can tell you just from pictures that I've seen of this track on the internet, after NASCAR ran its final cup race there in September of '96, after Jeff Gordon won the Tyson Holly Farms 400 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, the last cup race held there, it's like the track it was left in time, because there are still old billboards from 96, like the Tyson scoring pylon in the infield, the grandstands, the walls. It's just the press boxes, it's like it stopped. Whatever it was stopped in time, and it's been left like that since 96. And other tracks, they haven't been as fortunate. Some have been completely demolished entirely. I mean, you look at other tracks that NASCAR used to go to, Mesa Marin Raceway out in Bakersfield, California. That track got converted to, I think that track got demolished and then got turned into an athletic complex, but they built another short track like down the road or down the highway or in a different location in Bakersfield. There's Nazareth Speedway up in Pennsylvania. That track's been rotting away since 2004. And it's basically become so overgrown with shrubs and trees and other stuff that it's almost impossible at this point to go back there. Plus, I think the grandstands have been torn down. Rockingham Speedway, NASCAR put a lot of money into that after the Cup Series left in 2004. They got the Truck Series back for 2012, but financial struggles and low ticket sales meant that the Truck Series was out after 2013. And then trees started growing in the infield at Rockingham again. Now NASCAR is trying to invest money into the Rock to open that track back up.
Texas World Speedway, Riverside.
Texas World Speedway is gone. I mean, it's going to be demolished over in College Station, close to Texas A&M. By the way, still go Mizzou. What else is there?
Riverside.
Yeah, Riverside. It's gone. It's basically
turned into
a
a
shopping
mall.
Yeah. Chicago Motor Speedway. The old Chicago Motor Speedway, it was very similar to New Hampshire, what New Hampshire is now, over in Cicero, Illinois. But that track, it was basically Chicagoland before Chicagoland. And then Chicagoland was built and Chicago Motor Speedway was just looked at and like, yeah, bye. So that track was gone. I don't even think that track lasted like 5 years, which is really unfortunate. There's other circuits out there and other tracks that NASCAR has gone to that have just been left behind, and it's unfortunate. Like even I-70 Speedway in Odessa, when the Truck Series used to go there, they went there for 5 years before they packed up and left. And I-70 kept going with local dirt track races up until they closed in 2008. And it brings me so much joy to see that I-70 has been basically rebuilt. It's a dirt track again. They put up a new sign, which looks amazing, by the way. And I was so stoked because they were getting ready to run their race at the end of this month on May the 30th. And they announced earlier this week that it's not going to happen because of the pandemic. So, and it's the second year in a row that they've had to postpone it, because last year they were supposed to reopen and that race got postponed because it was flooding everywhere across Missouri. So it's that track, that poor Odessa track, it cannot catch a break. But man, when it reopens, it's going to happen. I mean, I'm confident that it's going to happen. Once it reopens, it's going to be a great time. And I know there's going to be a packed house there in the town of Odessa, just down I-70. So it's great to see North Wilkesboro come back. If it's possible to get more simulations of these older tracks that are still having some semblance of life. I know Chicago Motor Speedway, it's impossible because a Walmart got built on top of it. But if they can clear everything out of Nazareth, if there's any semblance of that track left.
They are scanning it. They actually scanned that, and they are actually going to have that one come in. So
good. Yeah. I would like to see them go to other, like scan other tracks that, even if they're not abandoned, but just, I don't know, like Hickory Motor Speedway or Myrtle Beach, South Boston. What other tracks are there that I'm thinking of that could be scanned? I don't know. I'm blanking out on them right now. But regardless, it'd be great to see. Oh, there's also Flemington Speedway up in New Jersey that the trucks used to go to for a while. Evergreen Speedway too, over in Washington. The tracks are endless, and it's watching these old races has made me really appreciate just how just how much variety NASCAR had and how much we'd like to see it come back. Now, I mean, obviously some other tracks are still being used by divisional series. Like I know for years the ARCA West series went to Tucson and Evergreen that the trucks used to go to. And even Colorado National Speedway over in just south of Denver. So, hey, anything's possible at this point, I feel like, in terms of getting simulations and running scans of these tracks. Now, I feel like I've gotten a little carried away with what all is going on, but with the track, with North Wilkesboro returning, what do you say that we have a look at the entry list for the finale of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational? So let me share the screen real quick.
Fingers crossed it's the final iRacing event of 2020 for NASCAR.
Hopefully. So here are the invited race entries. This list is subject to change, but obviously you can see there's the Richard Childress gang, there's the Stuart Haas guys there as well. Ross Chastain is still in the 6. Dale Jr. is in the 8. Basically, there's no Ganassi this week, but here's a name, Martin Truex Jr. in the 19. Now, normally that wouldn't be a surprise, but Truex has not run any iRacing events yet. So this will be interesting to watch. This is his first race that he's running. Bobby Labonte, who's been driving that 19 during all these iRacing events, he's still going to drive, but it'll be in a different numbered car. Oh, and by the way, for Junior, look at that. Look at that paint scheme. Mm-hmm. That is a beauty.
He's promoting every single racetrack that you just mentioned in his new show. We mentioned that back in January. It's like a side note.
Yeah, honoring his grandfather, Ralph Earnhardt, with that paint scheme. Great nod to Ralph over there. Eric Jones in the 20. Here's another guy to keep an eye on, John Wood. The last time John Wood drove competitively in NASCAR was, I think, 2007. I know he started. He was a well-known. He's a very accomplished truck series racer. He won at least one truck race, maybe two, driving for Jack Roush before moving up to what was then the Busch Series full-time to drive for JTG Daugherty Brothers when the Wood brothers had an investment in that team. He left in the middle of 2007. I forget what for, but and he even tried some cup races driving for the Wood brothers. But John Wood, he is a member of the Wood brothers, of the Wood family in racing. So this is a way for him to just have some fun running at North Wilkesboro. It's fun to see John Wood get back behind the wheel and driving competitively in NASCAR again in some way, even though it's virtually. But still, fun to see him back. Also, Jeff Gordon, the last driver to have won an actual NASCAR race held at North Wilkesboro, is returning once again in the 24. And now that I looked at it,
William Byron.
There's no William Byron. So
game on.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that'll be fun.
There goes my pick.
Let's see. Timmy Hill is here, so theoretically he would win a championship here. Also looking at let's see. Yeah, there's Friday Night Thunder as well. That's actually probably going on right now. But you see Alex LeBay, Angela Rock, Anthony Alfredo. You see these guys here. Let's see. Friday Night Thunder is basically wide open to everyone. It's open to Xfinity, Gander Outdoors Truck Series, NASCAR Mexico Series, Pinty Series, Whelen Euro, and ARCA Series drivers.
Oh, yeah. Christian Eckes and Austin Cindric got into it at the Martinsville Friday Night Thunder race. So they're doing that under the lights, by the way. Hey, that was supposed to be happening this week.
Fantastic. So while we're on the subject, we have the entry list out in front of us. So what do you say we make our picks? And let's do something that we haven't really done, because I know we haven't done picks for Friday Night Thunder, but just out of pure randomness, it's the last iRacing weekend. that's going to happen. Fingers crossed, hopefully. But we'll start with Friday Night Thunder and Justin Palmer. Justin, make your prediction. Who will be victorious out of this group that you see in front of you?
I have a feeling that Ty Majeski's going to win. I don't know why. Hey, but I just have a feeling that Ty Majeski's going to win.
Ty Majeski. I mean, he's run a lot of iRacing stuff before. I mean, he's even sponsored by them, so makes sense. Halista, your pick.
Let me see through here one more time.
Let's see. Let me get it up here.
There he is. There he is. I'm gonna go with. Wait, why are they getting into it? I need to ask that first. Did they wreck?
It's just short track racing.
Okay, that answers that. I will not pick Christian Eckes because chances are he wrecked. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Anthony Alfredo. I can't go up against a man named Alfredo. I'm just putting it out there.
All right. So let's see. For my pick, I see Angela Rex in this race.
That's your pick, right?
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So my pick's going to be, let's see, Christian Eckes is there. Yeah, he probably did wreck. You know, I'm going to pick an outsider. I'm going to pick Drew Herring. Just because Drew seems, I mean, he's a very respectable driver. He gets the most out of his equipment when he's given the opportunity, which I'll admit isn't often. But he still does well. He tends to do very well. So.
And the winner of the race is Ty Majeski.
Oh, that's official.
That's official.
Wow. All right, then. Ty Majeski, Justin Palmer, you called it just perfectly. So, Ty Majeski wins Friday Night Thunder. With that out of the way, let's look at the grid or the entry list for the race tomorrow night at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Justin, you got the Friday Night Thunder prediction right. You better be right on this.
I'll go with the driver who got the track a little bit earlier than everybody else, and he's going to have a big advantage coming into this race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has the right combination of experience and the right amount of experience at North Wilkesboro. Give me Dale Jr. For this one.
All right. Hallie Step, your pick.
That was going to be my pick. I have two of my picks. Just one of them is not even racing. So thanks, Willie B. You were going to carry me to the win. This is going to be a tough one. I think I'm going to have to go with Timmy Hill because he is going to be the unofficial iRacing champion of NASCAR. And he's very consistent. I think this, without William Byron being in the way, he's going to go get the win.
All right. So for my pick, I feel like I'm in a tough spot here because the only Hendrick guys that are racing, actually no, Jeff Gordon. I don't even know if that counts as Hendrick. But keep in mind, Gordon won the last race that was held here in 1996. It's important to keep that in mind. So he's a proven winner. He's won at North Wilkesboro before. That was in real life, though. This is iRacing. I'm not quite sure Jeff Gordon has enough of a grip on iRacing to really mount a big challenge. He might do pretty well. He could surprise me. But I just don't know if it's going to happen. I feel in my heart, and it's not Martin Truex Jr. This is his first race that he's doing this. He's probably going to get wrecked by – oh, Joey Logano's not in this race. Okay, well, I feel like he's still going to get wrecked.
Clint Boyer.
Yeah, oh, yeah, Clint Boyer's out there. Boyer will probably turn Truex. And Truex saying he'd be happy about it. But I feel like this guy has been doing a lot of iRacing just very quietly, has been getting some experience. And I feel like that experience might help him. He's been out of the limelight for a few years. I'm going to pick an underdog and go with John Wood. Wouldn't it be
Oh.
something for John Wood to win this event at North Wilkesboro Speedway? And it would be especially meaningful for the Wood family, considering a tragedy that happened with the Wood family earlier this week. One of the relatives of the Wood brothers racing family died earlier this week. It was Ray Lee Wood, an original member of the Wood brothers family. He died at the age of 92. He is the brother of Glenn Wood and Leonard Wood. Of course, Glenn and Leonard were two of the big names behind the Wood brothers racing team. Ray Lee Wood, dead at 92. Our sincere condolences and best wishes to the Wood family.
That would also be win number 100 for the Wood Brothers Racing organization. And if we were to count it. If we were to count it, that would be win number 100.
That'd be something special. So we made our picks. We've gone through tracks that we love and tracks that we wish would come back. We got heated with incidents that happened in the IndyCar iRacing event. We've basically done it all tonight. So that's going to do it for the show. Any last thoughts from you two before we send this thing to YouTube?
Floyd answered my text already. I need those scoops.
Okay. Justin.
Just hoping that North Wilkesboro's the best race out of the iRacing Inc. series. It's been an incredible couple of weeks with the iRacing, but we are very short week going to be coming back up on racing, and I am nervous for it, but also cannot wait for it.
It's going to be fun. It'll be fun. Just quick, I guess for my last word, quick hats off to the Excelsior Springs High School class of 2020. Tonight was supposed to be their graduation ceremony. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it did not happen. But they celebrated appropriately with a parade through town, which is, I'll admit, is why this was taped a little later. But still, it's fun to see the class get to do and celebrate one last time before the summer hits. And their graduation will actually, it's been rescheduled to later on. So that's going to do it for our show and this socially distanced edition of Burnin' Rubber. We will be back next Friday, same time, same place. Good luck to all Mizzou students on their final exams next week. That includes us three. Wish us luck. So yeah, that'll do it for Burnin' Rubber, the socially distanced edition. On behalf of Justin Palmer and Hal Estep, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and be kind to one another. Until next time, I'm Sterling Siemens, signing off.